Well, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning around the world, and welcome to this MESA webinar. We're here with Digitalvana. We're talking about leveraging AI, artificial intelligence for efficiency in media and entertainment workflows. And I'm so excited to have this great panel of guests with us here today. We've got Russell Wise, the Senior Vice President. Oh, let me turn on my camera as well so you can see us. There we are. Welcome, everyone. Excellent. So we have Russell Wise, who's the Senior Vice President of Digitalvana, and later in the program, Ed Halber, the Director of Business Development, and Russell Vian is going to join us. Hey, Russell, how are you?
Doing great. How you doing there?
Excellent. Very excellent. Well, welcome, everyone. And to all our attendees around the world, thank you for joining. I've got a couple of housekeeping things that we should probably get forward and straight first off. One is to be sure to ask questions in your GoToWebinar dialog box, your control panel. You'll see a questions box down below. You can ask questions all throughout the program. We're here to answer them. We'll do some in real time. We'll do some Q&A afterwards. Secondly, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll have access to it at your convenience. It will probably be shared by Digitalvana as well as MESA through our M&E Daily and on our MESA website. So super excited to dig into this topic and excited to have all these attendees here today. Russell, you and I are going to start by having a conversation to kind of set this up, and then Ed's going to come on. We're going to go through a demo and then we'll end with Q&A. But first and foremost, we should talk about Digitalvana and introduce this company, to our industry and to the M&E industry. You're not new to the industry at all. You're new into the MESA fold within the past quarter, but how did you guys start in this business, and where are you at with AI and STT and with your technology? It's a great beginning to the conversation.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Guy. I appreciate that. Well, first of all, happy to be here and looking forward to this session. Digitalvana has been doing transcription captioning services, outsourced services, for about 10 plus years with very large marquee customers. So yeah, think in terms of volumes of 20,000, 30,000 hours a year for transcription and captioning. So with that, it's labor intensive, 500 people worldwide, but to handle the volume and the quality and turnaround time, we started getting stuck many years ago, and that's when we started building our own workflow for speech to text to help us accelerate the process for transcription, captionings, and translation. So over the course of the year, we have an internal workflow with a management layer and a whole set of tools that accelerates this whole process. So as it stands, we also had our customers say, hey, that's cool. Can we have access to the workflow? Because there are days when we want to do it ourselves. We don't want to build out an infrastructure, but we just want a very lean, elegant workflow, cloud-based, where we can use it, light it up as required. And so that became the impetus of what we'll talk today. It's a product called Trance, and Trance is designed to do those things, meaning it's a workflow, access to speech to text, management tools, and a set of utilities that help you turn around captioning translations very quickly. So that's sort of where we came from and where we're going, if that helps.
Absolutely. But curious, you mentioned a few things. What exactly are you providing? I mean, you threw out a couple of terms in there. I'd love a little bit more clarity on that side.
Sure. So if you're a media organization that's needing to produce captions or translations or transcripts, we provide, it's a cloud-based system that you can log into, upload your media, have speech to text, do the transcription, and then a set of tools to do captioning with presets. And that's a big thing. If I'm going to be publishing content to Netflix, Hulu, or if I'm a caption provider, service provider, I can also serve my customers by providing that set of tool set. So once again, it's just cloud-based, easy to use, upload your content, do translation, captioning, translations, publish out to wherever you need to go. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
But, and I should have been more specific because you mentioned Trance in there as the product, and that's what we're walking through today. So maybe I should say, what exactly is Trance, and how is Trance unique out in the marketplace? Because that's a more appropriate question.
Yeah, and look, if you're producing captions and translation, you have a couple choices as a media organization. You can build your own workflow internally, or you'll spend 6 to 9 months building out that workflow. You can go to an outside captioning provider, and Digitalvana is one of those. Or you can take a different approach, unique approach, which is here's a cloud-based application with a management workflow that helps you streamline that process and do it. It's a do-it-yourself captioning cloud-based tool, and that's sort of it in a nutshell.
Well, let's before we head into the demo, and I know that's the meat of this. I mean, that's self-service credo, right? So you're saying basically they can hire an FTE, a full-time employee, or 2 full-time employees, and basically do it themselves. They don't have to outsource to you. You provide the tech, you white label it and put it into their operations.
Just good clarification. That's exactly what happens. Those people could be on site because it's cloud-based. They could be remote or anywhere. And you light it up, upload your media, and away you go. It does have a set of management orchestration layers so that you can assign jobs to people. You can see the status of the job and start tracking metrics on how fast you turned around and quality of that job. So.
All right, and before we introduce Ed, can you tell us a little bit about your role, Russell, as well, and how long you've been with the company? I think we did this also on our webinar a month ago or whatever, but I think it's good to have the background.
Well, both Ed and I were on the founding team of a company called Volicon. We were doing compliance logging and also applying AI to that particular space. We came here almost going on 2 years now. The idea is to drive new products, new innovation, serve a bigger set of customers, and that's what we're doing and having a blast. So we're inventing cool stuff, and customers are liking it. So that's what we're up to.
Excellent. And Ed's out here. Ed, are you out there? Let's turn on your camera and move into the next part of the webinar.
Sure. I'm here, Guy and Russell. Good to be with you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you fine.
Okay, great. So yeah, if we're ready, we can jump right into the demo. It'll be brief. It'll be a summary exploration into Trance, but one that's thorough, and I think will give the participants a real good taste of what Trance is all about, what you and Russell just discussed.
Fantastic. So, all right, Ed, take it away.
So yeah, we'll just jump right into it. So as you guys just discussed, Guy, Trance is a cloud-based enterprise-level SaaS platform, and it's used to generate automated transcripts, to create closed captions, to translate those captions into alternate languages, and also to export caption files in all known industry supported formats. Trance is also fully web-based. It's a SaaS platform, and it's accessible via a LAN, WAN, or even a basic internet connection. So as you see on your screen, there's a simple login process. It's very simple. You just point any browser to the Trance launch page, which is what you see, and you enter your username and password. And once you're inside, we'll take a look at the main Trance application homepage. And at the top of that page are 4 options: manage, files, export, and preferences. Very simple and very straightforward. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time here sort of on the admin side, but while we are here, I want to take a quick look at the manage menu. So as an enterprise tool, Trance is fully configurable for an unlimited number of users, groups, and roles. The manage section is where we set this up and we manage these and other similar functions. Administrators of the system can also manage multiple projects. They can create and manage users, define roles and permissions, as well as establish, system presets. So the manage preset section is the only other section I want to take a look at right here. And this is important because it gives users the ability to define caption attributes, such as the number of lines, the line length, total number of characters, text frame gap, etc. Custom presets allow users to predefine captioning parameters to automatically conform the work done in Trance to comply with requirements and style guidelines from providers like Netflix and Quibi. So to get media into Trance, we have a tool that we use called Media Services Portal. And like Trance, Media Services Portal, or also called MSP, is a cloud-based platform which allows users to ingest any number of common audio and video file formats into Trance. So once you're inside Trance, we simply select Add Job, which you're going to see here in the upper right. We select the desired process, and then we simply point to and upload our media into Trance. And it's just that simple. I'm going to just pause here and give the application a chance to catch up. And that's it. So we upload, point to our files, and then we just, again, upload those assets into Trance. So another couple of important points about MSP is it can directly integrate with both FTP and Amazon S3. Digitalvana also offers an open API to integrate Media Services Portal directly into large enterprise media systems. So using our API, those operators don't need to create a secondary workflow process to move media into and out of Trance. And this is a really big time-saving and productivity advantage of Trance. So with that said, now that we've uploaded some media via Media Services Portal, it's time to go back into Trance to access the job that we just imported. So to do this, we go back to that main Trance page and we go to Files menu and we select Transcription Edit. Now, as soon as we do this, we should immediately see the Transcript Edit interface open up, and we see the Trance speech-to-text engine has created a highly accurate transcript of the media that we just imported. Now, this eliminates the necessity of doing the manual transcribing of content, and again, delivers huge productivity gains over conventional transcription methods. The Trance speech-to-text process is also highly accurate, between roughly 90 to 95% accurate based on good quality content. So while we're here, let's take a few moments to walk through the tools and the features of the Transcript interface. In the center, we have the main text field, and this tool provides a fast and easy way to view the entire transcript and quickly make any corrections to the text. And to the left is a very powerful media player with intuitive controls which allow for the adjustment of and playback of the audio and video. There's a scrub bar for navigation. There are VTR style controls for playback and shuttling of the asset. And then there's also an auto scroll and auto seek option as well. The Transcript interface also provides operators with a number of additional tools for, again, fast and easy text editing, which include the auto highlight of potentially misspelled words. We've got a spell check tool, a find and replace word search tool. There's also the ability to adjust based on user preference, the typeface, the line height, the font size, etc. We can also highlight words as we go through the editing process that have been altered, edited, added, so forth in the interface. As well, there's a glossary of keyboard shortcuts to automate routine tasks, as well as there's a utility that allows us to integrate third-party foot pedals, if that is what your operation is used to doing in your workflow. So once we're in this process and our transcript is edited and it's exactly as we want, we go to the upper right and we choose Save and Close. Now, choosing Complete in this process keeps this job in the transcript domain so that additional users can further edit or approve the job at a later time. If we instead choose Complete, this closes the transcript phase and then sends this job to the caption edit portion of Trance. And we click OK and we complete that process. So to create captions, now that we're at this next stage, we'll go back to the Files menu, and this time we'll select Caption Edit. Now in the center portion of the interface is the edited transcript of the text that we just completed, and there it pops up on the screen. But now that text has been parsed and indexed to the media according to the preset values that we initially set up and I mentioned at the beginning. So Trance has done all this formatting work for us in the background and saved us, again, tremendous amounts of time and effort in the process. This is another major productivity advantage of Trance. Like before, the caption edit section of Trance includes the same media player and the powerful text editing capabilities. If we need to refine or change what Trance has created, we can easily navigate to a given section to add, delete, or edit any of the text. We can also split captions and move entire portions via keyboard shortcuts or just basic cut and paste operations. If we make any changes which might violate our preset formatting rules, Trance automatically warns us of the violation with a red highlight. You see that in, it looks like section 9 right there. So this automatically alerts us to, again, a violation of some type. Once we go ahead and we correct that issue and the warning disappears, and you also see the red disappears with it as well. Trance also includes a utility allowing for customizable placement of captions anywhere within the media, which is in the upper right-hand portion of the interface. At this point, a question that commonly comes up once people see and experience Trance is they say, hey, can I create captions, in more than one language? And with Trance, the answer is always yes. So again, staying in the caption edit interface, all we do is select add language, and we just simply choose the desired language which pops up from this dialog, and we'll choose Spanish, I think, for this case. Within a matter of seconds, once we make that selection, Trance completes a translation of the English captions from English to Spanish, and it populates those captions in a secondary edit window. They're going to come up here in just 1 second, and there you see them. We can now that they're populated, edit the Spanish captions just as we did before with the English. To go back, if we want to revert back to only seeing the English captions, we just simply click the right arrow button in the English column, and those Spanish captions collapse and are now hidden. But Trance auto saves and collapses those captions from view. And once all your caption edits are finalized, we simply choose either complete or incomplete again in the upper right of the interface. And that's the completion of that caption edit portion. So the only thing left to do at this point is really to export the actual caption files themselves. And to do this, we go to the export menu back at the main Trance page, and we select projects. We select a date from the calendar tool on or before the date of the project and click apply. From here, we locate the job ID number in the table, and we move to the far right of the interface and select open. The job we want to export is now open, and in the upper right of the UI, we select generate captions. Within a few seconds, Trance will generate the various sidecar caption files for this particular job. Those caption files will be created again based on the presets that we defined and we spoke about at the beginning. If we want to look at the caption files we just created, we can navigate to the left side of the interface where it says download captions and select zip. This action downloads a zip file, you can see that happening, where we can open and then examine the various caption files output by Trance. And once it's open, we can go look through the directory and we can see the various types of both English and in this case Spanish, since we did the translation, of all the files that Trance has now created for us. And that's it. In that short amount of time, we've completed the entire process. We've done all of that work. We've imported text. We have generated a speech-to-text transcript. We've edited that transcript. We've created and translated captions, and we've even output caption files. We accomplished all of this work in a very short amount of time from a single cloud-based application that's accessible to any user anywhere in the world. And we did it all faster and more effectively than a traditional captioning application. So this is Trance, and this is the power of AI technology from Digitalvana. At this point, Guy, I'm going to toss it back to you, and I think we're going to step into some Q&A portion of our presentation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks so much, Ed. That was great. And ultimately, we've already got some questions coming in from the crowd. So we'll just jump right in here. Specific to the demo, one question was, how could I edit the cues to be as accurate as possible? And I think you ran through that. Is that something that you can talk through, or did you address it in the demo?
Well, I'll try to clarify it. I'm not sure I fully understand the question by the description saying the cues. The first thing I want to reiterate is that the transcript edit portion allows for the bulk editing to be done in an easy, elegant, seamless way, in the fastest way possible. And I like to refer to this as really like a word processor with a video player engine tied to it. So all of the bulk edits in terms of accuracy, cleaning up the speech to text, making it 100% perfect, takes place in that transcript edit section. Now, with regard to the indexing and parsing of that transcript, when we convert to the caption section, that happens again based on the presets that we define in that preset section that we walk through. And the system will basically time reference or index those captions based on those presets to the time references in the media. Now this is done in the background through the AI technology and the sophistication of our tool. But I think to the participant's question, if there are any nuances that need to be made, you can simply go into that caption edit section like we briefly showed, and you can move things up and down, you can time shift them, you can split a caption, you can move something to an upper portion or a different portion, and you can still interact with those captions while you see and hear the media, which is the key thing, of course, so that things stay in sync. So there is the point I want to leave to this question is that there's a great degree of specificity and granularity that the operator using Trance can create to line up and make sure that those captions are in sync and exactly as the operator wants them, by using those two tools. Hopefully that's a thorough answer.
Yeah, no, and I think it was thorough. And also there was a further clarification that what they meant was the entrance and the ending of the subtitles itself. So I I think you pretty much addressed it, but
Right.
there's a bunch stacking up, so I certainly don't want to delay. Does the automated transcription only work in English? Like, in other words, does this only work?
Does it have to start in English? In other words, can it start in, Croatian and go to French? And that's a great question. So no, it's not predicated upon initiating the process as an English only starting point. Again, there's like 25, I think we're at 25 different languages that are supported. So you could start in any language, start in French and you could translate to Portuguese, or you could start in Farsi and you could move to, again, whatever else it was you were wanting to localize or translate to.
This is a multiple choice follow-up also. When you're automatically translating, first, which language can you translate into? And I believe you addressed that, but you can get deeper on that. And two, what engine or model is being used on the back end to generate those translations? And that might be proprietary. So just wanted to throw that to you, Ed.
Right. Again, great questions. I believe that the earlier part of the question, I think we addressed, which is, it's fully bi-directional. You can start with one language and end in another. It really, as long as it's a supported language in the platform, that's completely at the discretion of the user. With regard to speech to text, this is a really great question and something that I want to touch on because it really distinguishes Digitalvana and Trance from everything else that we see in the marketplace. So unlike other providers, we're not limited to one specific speech to text engine. In fact, we by design do not operate that way. We constantly evaluate and measure the performance of all the best speech to text engines that exist in the market today. And so we're not limited to just one. And the reason that that's important is this technology is progressing and developing and advancing very quickly. And so being tied to one or the other is inherently limiting. We would rather take the approach of using them all and continually measuring and evaluating them based on.
Oh, the joys of the internet. Oh, we might have just lost Ed.
So for instance.
Oh, there you are, you're back.
Okay.
Sorry, Ed, we lost you for 1 second. You may need to repeat that.
Okay, so we have the ability to constantly evaluate and measure the performance of all the speech to text partner engines that we use. And then we can also apply them based on their performance. So if we detect that engine A is performing better in scenarios, say, where there's sports content, and we can even be more specific, domestic American basketball, we see that speech to text engine A is performing better in this application, we automatically in the background route that content based on, again, machine learning capability to say, we're going to route this client's content through this speech to text engine because we see it now as performing at its best, better than options B, C, D, whatever it might be. And those engines are constantly learning, and that's another big distinction, that we have a great degree of accuracy that we can accomplish by taking that philosophy and that approach of how we, again, automatically transcribe in the speech to text process.
Yeah, and you mentioned sports, which is great because I got a couple questions around that. First of all, does it support live captioning also? That's the first pre-qualifier.
Yeah, Trance is currently not a live captioning solution, to be clear, but with that caveat, it is on our roadmap and it is something that we're actively developing. So live captioning with the ability to run our speech to text engine to collapse the time of that speech to text process down to near real time, or essentially real time, giving an operator the ability to make very quick edits and stay, within a few seconds of live and be able to do that on the fly. That's something that we're evaluating and working towards as the technology matures, and there's a degree of reliability and consistency that we can bring to the market. But that is on the roadmap for sure. Not today, but coming soon.
Well, and this is a follow-up also around the system communicating with servers and feeds, right? So, television sport games, and in terms of that integration. I don't know if you're there yet, but I assume that that's also another roadmap item.
Yeah, we're constantly developing the product, and so that is a roadmap item. And honestly, I've worked for a lot of vendors in the past, and Russell alluded to our history going back 15 years to the genesis of Volacon. This company really adheres to a philosophy and a down-to-earth principle in being very, very agile. And as much as this is an enterprise tool, the product operates on a very agile basis, meaning it's able to take and respond to customer requests very, very quickly. In fact, it's a hallmark of some of our most preeminent customers have embraced this product in part because of that. So there's a long history of continual development and being very much in tune with exactly what the market wants and being able to deliver these expanded feature sets and new capabilities that don't currently exist in the product today.
Excellent, excellent, beautiful. So those were a couple of the ones that were more geared towards the live demo. We do have a question around security of the platform, and it's an interesting question. Ultimately, when you're using these, SaaS or PaaS, something that's not based on site, data platform security is critical and transfer mechanism. And you also list FTP as a transfer protocol, right? So curious what the security posture is around it, and it might be also something for Russell V or Russell W. But Ed, do you want to take a shot at the security question?
Yeah, as a sales guy, I'll give it my best shot from a sales perspective. And I would answer the question this way, and I will preface my comments by saying, I am not an IT professional, and I don't want to pass myself off as one. One such customer that uses this product every single day of the week had that same question, taking top tier content with a high degree of sensitivity and vulnerability, quite frankly, from a risk perspective, evaluated us on that very topic. And we went through a very thorough process of reassuring that customer that those assets, in the way that they're transferred and the way that they're stored in the cloud, and the privacy that surrounds and the security that surrounds those assets remain untouched and completely secure and pristine. This was an extremely high mark for us to have to meet. It was something that the product natively does. I can only tell you that we met that test with flying colors, and this major mainline well-known broadcaster, again, has accepted us based on that and uses it every single day. I would say that if there's more detailed technical questions, certainly forward those to us. It may be better to field those more detailed questions around security or anything else offline outside of this session, because I don't know the specifics of what the questioner had in mind, but we've addressed them, and our customers have responded in kind, believing and trusting us, knowing that our security protocols are sufficient for their requirements.
Sure. I mean, it's huge. Like security is just such a big around SaaS PaaS cloud based, no issues at all. And of course you'll be able to contact that questioner directly post webinar.
Right.
All right.
Great.
Some groupings of some general questions. They may not address it specifically, but there's questions around how do customers really use Trance? What are some of your most common use cases? And I know there were a couple of platforms mentioned earlier by Russell. You mentioned them in your demonstration as well, but can you give us a rundown on that, just to give us some oversight on how people are using it for multiple things?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, great question. So there's an application, again, alluded to from a third-party provider perspective, and Netflix was mentioned, and I'm going to reference Quibi in this particular case. So we have a client that uses Trance, and they struck up a relationship with Quibi, and all of a sudden, very quickly, they need to turn around content to Quibi, but the requirements for them to turn this content around are extremely narrow and very exacting, meaning that specifically the time frame to do this is roughly within the 60-minute window, and this is going on a rotational daily basis. So high pressure, short turnaround time, but also with an exacting standard of accuracy based on the Quibi style guideline. And so that's one particular use case where the overarching requirement for this customer was speed, accuracy, and the enterprise workflow of being able to get this work done and get it done quickly to turn content around these short form assets to a carrier like Quibi or an outlet like Quibi. And this would apply for Netflix as well, and there are other outlets. That just happens to be one that is top of mind and very prominent right now. Another application would be independent caption providers. These would be small companies that have relationships in the broadcast space, or sometimes in other areas, other OTT markets or other VOD type of markets. And they're looking to leverage Trance to be competitive in these alternate markets, maybe not so much in the live broadcast segment for reasons we've already touched on. And so they come to us looking for a solution, saying, hey, I need a better tool than what's out there in the web and the app based marketplace for translation and transcription. And this is, again, where Trance fills a really neat niche or gap in the market from these providers that are sort of a one-size-fits-all. They're not agile. What you get is it's pre-configured, whereas with Trance, it can be wide open and we can export in any number of formats, and we have all this enterprise flexibility, but yet it's still approachable and usable for a small shop that, say, has 3, 4, 5 employees. So we're seeing applications and adoption of Trance in scenarios like that. There's another application, this came up fairly recently, where another client has said, we'd really love to take long format assets, typically raw field content or long form interviews, and we see a need to be able to take these assets, automatically transcribe them, and take the transcription as metadata and index it back into the asset, so that it gives the operators and the editors and people producing this content much greater visibility into, say, an hour-long recording. And this is another way in which the product is being used, not just directly caption something to go to air or some OTT delivery, but they're using it as a metadata source to index back to the raw content for greater post-production accuracy and efficiency. And then I think the last one I would draw your attention to would be CBC, or the Canadian Broadcast Company, where they are using us to do conformance. One piece of the product is the ability to conform existing content to, again, a specific style guideline, like a Netflix. In this case, that's exactly what it is. It's one of the outlets, and that Netflix parameter is very rigid and very demanding and exacting. And so they use Trance to auto-conform any inconsistencies in their existing captioning process to make sure that what goes out and gets delivered to Netflix is fully compliant based on those, again, very exacting style guidelines. So those would be 3 or 4 examples of, mainline broadcast media,
Sure.
sort of in the trenches applications where the product's used today.
No, I think that was great, and I think that answered the batch of questions that came in. All right, couple quick machine questions, and then we'll go into turnaround times. But so this is a SaaS tool, and it's cloud-based, and we want to talk about what the benefits that brings to it. But we do have a question around: is this a subscription? Is it job-based? Is it multiple shows? And I don't know if you want to share that publicly, or if you'd like to just follow up privately with the attendee. But they're asking, would the charge be based on the amount of content, or is it just a license? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, again, wonderful question. Whoever asked that question, thank you. This oftentimes doesn't get asked enough. And again, I think it's another hallmark of the way we operate and do business at Digitalvana. So here's the great news. Trance is user-based. It's based on usage and usage alone. It depends on how much content you push through it and how much content comes out of it. And it's based purely on that factor alone. So there is no site licensing process. There's no particular user seat license restriction. It's purely a consumption model, and you're charged a rate based on that consumption figure or that consumption number. And that's it. We want as many people using it and adopting it, and we hope that that policy makes it as easy with the lowest barrier of entry to embrace the product and use it. And we also think it's the most fair. So that's the answer to that question.
All right, and then on the SaaS side, having a cloud-based platform, it evokes some questions, and there's a couple in here around, like, is there product install? Is it browser-based? Can you give us some background on the SaaS of your product?
Sure. Again, it is a SaaS product. There is no licensing or deployment of software. This is entirely browser-based, HTML access. So it's universally accessible via any browser to any asset, any video or audio asset. And the tools are also universally accessible through that browser connectivity to any user wherever they may be, anywhere in the world and at any time. So again, there's no geographic or physical limitation to its access. If you have a broadband internet connection, it doesn't even have to be in a corporate LAN or wide area network. You can simply, based on your credentials to use the system, you can log into the platform and be using the tool just like we demonstrated a few minutes ago in the demo. And that means there's no installs, there's no issues with software versions or version management. There's no plugins. There's no software updates that have to manage across a single site or multiple sites, which is even more difficult. There's no, again, user licensing or site licensing restrictions, et cetera. It's purely a remote HTML login process only.
Cool. Related to this question, why is Trance so fast? Why, how does it produce these fast, incredibly fast turnaround times for these operators? You mentioned the Quibi example before we talked about SaaS, but can you give us some highlights on, without giving away the secret sauce, on how do you do it? How do you do it so quickly?
Yeah, again, happy to do it. Some of it, to start off with, I would draw, sort of go back to what I just stated a moment ago. Some of the inherent advantages of SaaS and cloud-based, tool sets enhance that process. I mean, this is a great example in the current climate that we're in, where many people are working remotely and they're not in their physical office as they once were. This type of tool just makes getting access to doing your work that much easier in the sort of social, cultural climate that we find ourselves. So that's the first piece. The other piece that's huge is the speed and the accuracy of the speech to text technology. And this goes back to what I referenced in, I think, one of the earlier questions, how we philosophically deal with speech to text, and we use multiple engines and we optimize those engines based on their performance, and we're constantly evaluating those engines' performance. So not only do you not have to do it manually, which is a colossal savings in time in terms of manual transcribing of content, that's being done automatically, and the work that's being done is highly accurate. So again, with good quality content, we typically and very uniformly see results coming from these speech to text engines that are 90, 95%, sometimes even higher in terms of their accuracy. So that's another giant efficiency boosting, part of this whole equation. The other piece is, of course, as we talked about, this is an M&E application from the outset. So the tool set and the user interface are all geared towards this specific outcome and the specific people that will use it and embrace it. So it was designed from the ground up with that type of community in mind. The API that I referenced is another way for large enterprise customers that do not have to create secondary processes, even to work within Trance. All the native stuff in Trance is really cool, right? But if you're in some giant enterprise and you've got all these interconnected media systems, the last thing you want to do is have to create a secondary process in a situation like that. And so for those customers, we've solved that problem as well. Through this open API process, Trance just integrates directly into that existing media workflow environment, which is really great. And then the other piece I would say is that, again, these custom presets, being able to define and conform automatically at the creation of captions or transcriptions, content that's automatically destined to conform to wherever its final destination is intended. So if I'm publishing to Netflix, I can set those parameters up ahead of time and be reassured and comfortable knowing that the work that I do is automatically formatted for that final destination without having to go back later and tweak it or make changes or fuss around with it. It's just completely done from the outset. So I would say those are 4 or 5 really good reasons to sort of clarify that speed question.
Sure, absolutely, and thank you. And thanks for the question on the audience. So quick question on your STT engine. So you mentioned this just now, and we have a question around it. So what engine or engines do you use today?
Well, there's a number of them that we use. And we're open to any number of current or even new speech to text engines that exist. Digitalvana is not interested in recreating the wheel. If there is technology in the market that is companies that are expert and have mastered that technology, then it's incumbent upon us to, and we think smart, to leverage those best of breed products. So there are a number that we employ today, and we rely on them in the context of my previous statements, measuring the ones that work best and applying the ones that perform best based on language or asset type and so forth. And that's just an ongoing thing that we do in the background through our machine learning and other, as you might say, secret sauce of how we make Trance do what it does.
Excellent. All right, sorry, we're just plowing through the Q&A because they're in here. So you mentioned that you talked about Quibi. and that it's very helpful in generating captions for that platform. But you also mentioned Netflix earlier. So what exactly do you do different for these big providers? What does Trance do differently that helps that process?
Well, let's start with Netflix since you mentioned that first. First of all, just to clarify, I mean, the style guidelines of one outlet versus the other are different. And so the resulting content that's submitted to these different operators needs to conform to their specific guidelines. So while they may be close, there are nuanced differences between the two or three or five or whatever it is. So in terms of what we do different, the first thing I would draw your attention to is that we can very specifically conform the output of our caption files to the exact requirements of whichever operator it is that this content is destined to reside. So, with Netflix, for already captioned content, as an example, users can ingest media into Trance and go through the caption conformance tool and automatically caption content based on preset rules that comply with those Netflix parameters. And that would be, again, a CBC use case, which is in operation today. If, on the other hand, someone is creating content that's new content that has yet to be transcribed or captioned, users, like I just mentioned, can set up those parameters at the outset of a job or a session in Trance based on those Netflix profiles, and then go through the transcription, captioning, export process, or even the translation process, and conform at the outset the content for Netflix specifically to be what it is that they expect for it to be. And again, with Quibi or Hulu or whoever else it might be, there are different file types and different style parameters within the output that will vary. And the fortunate thing and the great thing about Trance is that wherever the destination is, we can completely comply with those unique preset requirements.
Excellent. A couple of questions here around accuracy, and more specifically accuracy when there's music going on. So first question, if there's light music in the audio mix, how accurate is it, how much accuracy does it provide? That's the first one.
Okay, again, good question. That's a hard question to quantify, which is, I believe, the heart of the question that was asked, which is, how does the performance fall off and what does that look like in terms of a number, since I cited 90 to 95%. It's highly subjective, and it's highly discriminating based on the content that comes into the system. How present is that secondary audio? How, excuse me, how distracting is it? How much does it interfere or not interfere with the dialogue? How much do those factors contribute to the ability of the speech-to-text engine to interpret or analyze, again, audio that's not dialogue or spoken audio versus music or some other type of sound or sound effect, so forth. Again, with anything that's what we might refer to as broadcast quality content, we generally see an extremely high accuracy result. That's not to say that those numbers won't be affected. Sure, they will. If you pump content into the system that has multiple people speaking over each other all the time, or a high degree of background noise that's, profoundly interferes with the dialogue, that is something that, will reduce the accuracy percentage. But again, when we're dealing with high quality audio content, accuracy never appears to be an issue and does not interfere with the productivity and efficiency that speech-to-text process provides.
Okay, and look, the follow-up question had to do with music and music videos, so that's why I asked that first one first about light music in the background. But when you get to songs and singing, obviously that accuracy it becomes more difficult because it's not spoken dialogue.
Right.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
And I would just add, just as a quick side guide, for the participant that asked that question, it's a great question, and really the best way to address that or to test that would be to do essentially a proof of concept on some of that content, and we can do that very, very quickly. We'd love to deal with the content that's being questioned and see how it performs, and run some tests and give this organization or this individual the ability to kick the tires, so to speak, and see how the system performs for their particular content.
Perfect. And I know we only have a few minutes left. I know you wanted to end a little bit early. You mentioned productivity gains, and I think it's too important not to talk about efficiencies, right? That's a Mesa mantra. You also mentioned some very high-level clients that utilize the tool now in their existing workflows. Can you talk about some of the productivity gains that y'all have seen around the product?
Yeah, happy to, because again, it's something we're very proud of, and our customers and the feedback they give us really testify to these numbers. And that is that, generally speaking, we see productivity numbers in the 50% range, sometimes higher, over traditional captioning methods, meaning traditional transcribing of content, or even traditional desktop applications that don't have these automated capabilities to them. So when you factor in the entire tool set and the speech-to-text speed and the speech-to-text accuracy and the ability to do all of these things from one single application that's universally accessible, it's very common that we see productivity enhancements in the 50% range.
All right, cool. Very cool. All right, literally final final question. And again, this kind of goes back to the beginning. We talked about, so what if you need to translate the same content into more than one language? And what languages do you translate to? So I'm kind of taking us back to the beginning for the ending.
Yeah, so again, I believe we're currently at 25 supported languages. Again, just quickly, I can run through them: Arabic, Brazilian, Portuguese, Bulgarian, Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, Czech, Danish, Dutch, English, Estonian, Farsi, Finnish, French, German, Greek, Hungarian, Irish, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Latvian, Lithuanian, Luxembourgish, Norwegian, Polish, Portuguese, Romanian, Russian, Slovenian, Slovak, Spanish, Swedish, Turkish, Ukrainian, and Urdu. Those are the current supported formats. And I may have forgotten or didn't understand the first part of the question. If I didn't answer it, or if you want to restate it for me.
No, just the ability. What if you have to translate into 2 or 12 of those languages, or 25?
Then you would just simply repeat the process. We can currently do 2 right now. So with a given job, you have the ability to do 2, which could start in any direction. You could start with 1 and end in another. If you need to translate to a 3rd language, a 4th language, a 5th language, then it's just an additional process to take an existing caption and then run through the process a second time, run a translation, go through the corrective editing process, and then output files in the 3rd language or the 4th or the 5th and so forth.
Excellent. All right, we're basically out of time, and I wanted to make sure that we wrapped up and had a conclusion. I'm going to turn on my camera just so that everybody can see us before we split. There we are. That's me. Russell, Ed, thank you, first of all, and thanks to everybody out here who attended. Any closing or parting thoughts, either of you? Hey, excellent. Great seeing your faces.
Here we go. Yeah. Well, no, just thank you, Guy, for orchestrating. I think the questions were phenomenal. What we'd encourage you to do is, as you have more questions, we'll put up contact information. Feel free to reach out, and we can start working through any questions that you might have in detail. So.
Yeah, I would echo that. Is just continue. The questions were great. Please send us additional. We look forward to connecting with each of the participants and being as helpful as we can. And we just want to thank you for making the time to be with us today.
Excellent. Russell, love that armchair. That came from the crowd. The one in the background. I love it. Yeah, it's like these are insights into our homes, ladies and gentlemen. Ed, Russell, and Russell, who's also on silent in the background and helping with the demo. Thank you all so much. Thanks, Digital Nirvana, for producing this webinar with us, and thank you everybody out there around the world listening. We'll be sure to send this recording around to everybody, and if you need to get in touch, please reach out directly. You can do that through Mesa or through Digital Nirvana directly. All right, excellent. Thanks so much, gentlemen. Oh, there's a contact page. Let's leave that up there
Have a good day.
for 1 second. All right, everyone, take care. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next Mesa webinar.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Take care.